TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What are your thoughts on Dynamite Kid? I read his book, and I know he buried you guys. He said the gimmick.
I never heard. Someone told me that. To be honest with you, I don't read nobody books, those guys' books, because I know the book, I know the story. But people have told me kind of what he said about me, and to be honest with you, I'm gonna shoot straight to. I don't have an idea why Dynamite would say anything about me, because we never had a problem. As a matter of fact, we were always best of buddies. And really, I can't sit over here and say anything really bad about the kid, because he was always nice to me when I saw him. Tommy was, and I heard a lot of things, since he's been incapacitated, and he's real bitter and all that stuff. But I never done anything, to him. I never bothered. I never done nothing to him. I was always one of his buddies, and the same thing with Davey Boy, and we got along famously. We laughed. We had a lot of stories, and he was just dynamite. Everybody knows the story about Dynamite Kid, a vicious ribber. Everybody knows he likes to rib, and he'd like to do all these kinds of things, and he's shit disturber, so to speak, and then he'd be a little bit salty, and he was rude, but not to me. He was good to me, and I know he'd done a lot of things until those Rougeaus knocked his teeth out one time, and this was not no memory. This was a real deal, and I'm just saying, hey, if you're gonna give a rib, sometimes you got to take a rib. And anyway, they fixed him up on that. But the things he said about me, I can't sit over here and say, I really tell you the truth, he's so inconsequential to me, I don't care, because first off, I don't read those silly books. He didn't write the book anyway. Somebody wrote it. He's just telling what he's telling in it, and who knows what he's saying. It just sounds to me like he's having a bad life. And guess what? Like I said earlier, it ain't my fault. Nobody told him to go out there and abuse his body. Take all those bumps, jump off the top of the ceiling into a teacup because it's cool. Oh, it's cool now. But when you get to be older and you're in a wheelchair and you got a million pains, now who's cool? Now who feels good? See, that's what I'm trying to say. And nobody, all the times that I've seen him, you're drinking some water there. I've never seen him drink a glass of water in my life. It was either coffee or beer. He never had, and a cigarette continually in his mouth. So he was burned, and then like I say, he was mean to his family. Got thrown away. Nobody cares about him. And I was one of the guys that always liked him, and I still feel bad about that happening to him. But man, he did it to himself. And you got to say something about somebody. I don't really tell you the truth. It don't bother my life one bit what he says about me. I'm just honored he mentioned my name. Thanks, appreciate it.
Were you there for the Rougeau fight?
Oh yeah.
What do you remember of that night?
Oh, I just remember him I didn't see it happen. He showed up in about a half hour after it happened and was smiling like this with his teeth missing. Look, Jim, his teeth were gone. And he didn't even, and he tried to be tough, want to be a little tough guy. He wouldn't even go try to get him, he wouldn't even make it like it was no big deal. Like he didn't want to go get him fixed or nothing. So in other words, he's one of those kind of, he's one of those kind of circus kind of cats, like you talk about freaks and geeks that, don't care what they do to themselves. He just did it to himself. And look at the other one. I mean, Davey Boy was an awful ribber too, and done everybody bad, and then he just did crazy stuff, and then kills himself with drugs. Come on, hello. Who don't get the memo on that? That's been done so many thousands of times in this business. You take drugs, you drink on top of them, you might not wake up. Right. I got 50 guys I could start naming names off here. That's all happened to them. And you know what I'm saying? You can't tell somebody something, though. Let me just say this to you. Those two guys I just mentioned, you can't tell anybody anything that knows everything.
With Dynamite, did you ever see him take liberties with enhancement talent at all?
All the time. All the time. Yeah. They didn't care. They just chew them up. They just meat to them. It didn't matter, So, but just the kind of guy that just pretty much, had the world by the tail, but was just he wanted to be surly and mean. Just had mean temperament, and he treated his family like that, his wife, and there's consequently they leave him, and his family leaves him, and everybody talks about him. And then you wind up in a nursing home somewhere smoking cigarettes all day long, talking about how bad you were done. Which is, I wish him well. I wish he, but. Let me tell you something, and that's what I say. I want to go back and say about these guys in this business. All these guys running around here talking about how cool he's doing all these crazy, amazing bumps. It's supposed to be entertainment. If you can't figure out how to entertain yourself, the people, without killing yourself, then maybe you need to get another business. That's just my way. Well, that's why they're all running around here with hips and all weird looking and stuff like that, and I ain't got none of that. I was in there too. I mean, I could have done that stuff too if I wanted to, you know. But at the end of the day, the only one that pays is you. See, and here's where you really mess up. If you don't save your money, you're like those NFL guys. They get hurt and destroyed, and they ain't got no money. And you're going to have those concussions. You know that. Everybody asked me what happened to Chris Benoit. It wasn't steroids. If it was steroids, every bodybuilder and powerlifter and shot putter in the world would be killing people. They take a lot more than he took. It's not steroids. Concussions. I know for a fact he was knocked out every weekend for years up there in Calgary when he was coming down from Edmonton, wherever he was from, down to Calgary to try to learn how to wrestle. Because Bruce Hart told me he just wanted to be like Dynamite Kid so bad, do that head thing. He would get up in the corner on the turnbuckles and come off there, and he said knocked himself out every time. I mean, your pumpkin can only take so many hits, you know, and then you lose it. So, you know, and we're talking about stuff later now. And see, that's the thing about youth. The most powerful thing in the world is youth. When you're young, you don't think about that stuff. But as you get a little older, you see it happening. And if you're smart when you're young, you look ahead and see the guys that come before you and say, look at them, man, they're a bag of bones. Why are they a bag of bones? Why are they broke down? Why are they hurting? Because you know your body can't take but so much, you know.
Right. You've seen a lot of the ribs that Dynamite has pulled on people? Have you ever seen any? Or have you ever been on the end of any of his ribs?
He never ripped me, but they used to rip Danny Spivey all the time. You remember Danny Spivey? Yeah. Great sweetheart guy. And Danny Spivey, a tough guy too. You know, I saw him about kill Adrian Adonis one night over in
I heard about that
He
fight.
beat the hell right out of him. And Adrian probably deserved it. Adrian would take advantage of guys, and he was one of those kind of guys that was, you know, kind of nasty and surly. And, you know, he would do stuff too, but that was a bad mistake with Danny Spivey. But I've seen him. They used to open up Danny Spivey's. They had Davey Boy had to figure out a way to open up Danny Spivey's. He had a Halliburton, and they had a way they could break into every one Halliburton. They knew a special way to get into him. Those two did, you know. And they'd get into the Halliburton, and he'd have cigarettes in there like Danny Spivey would, and they'd take some of his paint that he'd paint his boots with, because Danny would spray paint his boots yellow.
Right.
And they'd take a paint and take your cigarettes out and spray paint the cigarettes. Just stuff like that, you know, just aggravating with stuff. and you know, and just keep on doing it, you know.
What are your memories about Don Morocco?
Oh, Don Morocco, man, what a great guy. The magnificent Morocco. I remember before I got into business, he was one of the more, when I'd watch those shows of him, he was one of the more impressive looking cats.
Right.
The beach bum, Don Morocco. When I got into business and got to know Don, man, what a treasure, man. What a smart guy. He's a very intelligent man. He's been all over the world. And just the kind of guy that you just like. Very pleasant as he could be. And just an amazing hand in the ring. I mean, you're in good hands if you're in there working with a magnificent one. He was one of the best.
TitleMatchNetwork.com